and welcome to another episode of Dawnversations. If you are new here, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back, welcome back. So happy to have you here. Today's guest is MARISA FAYE. She's a holistic nutritionist and hormone and gut expert. She is a wealth of knowledge, you guys. If you struggle with health issues and you're sick and tired of doctors' answers and them wanting to shove pills in your mouth, this is your episode. You are going to have your mind blown. I promise you that. I could not believe how much I learned in just a short amount of time, and I already want to have her back on. So I hope you get as much out of it as I did, and here we go.
Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I have 5 million questions. So welcome and thank you so much. Thank you for coming on. So do you have your own podcast?
I do. Yeah. I have a podcast with a friend and colleague of mine named Jen Nichols. She is a really amazing, she calls herself a movement witch, which I'm like, I don't know that means anything to other people, but she basically combines yoga, strength training, and Reiki. And if you can believe it, it really is like the most phenomenal format for movement and well-being because we all need all those things and don't make time for all of them. So she's incredible.
Oh, that is so interesting. So what is the name of the podcast?
It is Into the Yes.
Into the Yes. Okay, and I'll have you say that again later so you can promote it.
Totally. Would love
That's
that.
awesome. You have a great voice.
Thanks.
Okay, so you are. I'm just going to jump right into it.
Go
You
for it.
are a holistic nutritionist and hormone and gut expert.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot
I
of
know. I was going to say, and do you know what that means?
Right. So what got you into that? Why did you go down that path?
Totally. So, I have an interesting background in this way where I really, I grew up with just a lot of stress in my home, which impacted my metabolism as it should and would, frankly. And my parents were always taking me to doctors because I was just slightly overweight, slightly larger than average. And it kind of became this obsession, my weight as a kid and a teenager. And of course I developed like disordered eating habits.
Yeah.
And then, when I was 20, I was like, that's it. I'm done with this. I'm going to get healthy. And so I researched, how do I get healthy? And everything was about extreme weight loss. And I
Right.
did that, right? So I calorie counted and ate, 1,200 calories a day, which I'm 5'8". I was an active person and am an active person. There's
Oh,
no
wow.
way. Yeah. There's no way in hell that is enough for my body.
Yeah.
Even if I'm laying in bed all day, still not enough for my body. And I was chronic cardio exercising and I further dysregulated my metabolism and my hormones. And when I was 23, 24, I just was like, something is wrong. I had a lot of the classic symptoms related to thyroid issues and period issues. So I had like cold hands and feet, and I was losing hair, and I was a vegetarian and I felt like I was doing everything healthy. I was training for a half marathon. My weight kind of kept going up. I had weird period stuff. So my periods were like long and they would start and stop a lot.
Yeah.
And so I saw a bunch of doctors, and also at the time was working at a wellness center in Chicago. So I had access to also alternative care practitioners. And I basically was like, everybody study me. Everyone, yeah, like come and get it, right? Let's figure this out.
Guinea pig right here.
Yes.
Is that the same as functional medicine? Is that the same terminology?
Not quite.
Okay.
The thing is, people really confuse when they hear alternative medicine, which, by the way, alternative medicine actually is the original medicine. It's
Okay.
so it's funny that we call it alternative because it actually is original. It came well before Western medicine, which is called allopathic medicine.
Okay.
So anyways, to make a long story short, nobody could help me. Like everybody wanted to give me one thing that, if you cut out this one food, if we do this food sensitivity test, if you take this one prescription, if you take this one supplement or you do this kind of protocol, this is going to solve it. And nothing did.
Oh, how
Yep.
frustrating.
And I was in school, I was in grad school studying for a master's in public health. I really wanted to believe that the Western medicine system wanted me to get better and wanted to help me. And the crux of it all was when I was 26, I had a breast lump that developed and I had to have it removed because it was suspicious.
Mhm.
And that for me was like the wake up call. It was like, oh crap, I keep giving other people the power to heal me and to help me be healthy. And that's not, first of all, I'm not sure that's actually what their job is, because it's not what Western medicine doctors are trained to do or providers are trained to do. And also, even the alternative practitioners who might be holistic or functional or Chinese medicine, some of them had great suggestions, but nobody was really thinking about my body systemically in the way that I now do, which is
Mhm.
the functional piece of it. And so I was like, I have to figure this out. And at the time, I couldn't study the type of program I wanted to be in because of the state I was in and legislation there that wouldn't allow me to practice. So when I moved to Colorado when I was 29, I was like, great. I got a divorce. I'm like, I get a redo on my whole career. And I was like, that's it. And like immediately started peeling back hours in my public health job, started taking trainings and certifications and mentorship and being educated in truly like a wide breadth of topics that fall into both holistic and functional. And in that process, have been able to reverse 95% of my symptoms and truly feel the healthiest I've ever felt in my entire life in my mid 30s.
God, that is amazing.
Yeah.
Truly, that is an amazing story. How did you even like, was there one moment that was like a light bulb where you're like, this is exactly where, because after having all of those things fail, how did you even know where to look? How did you even know what to
It
search?
totally, I mean, this is one of those things where I really believe our intuition can lead us if we are
Yeah.
open to listening to it. And I truly feel my intuition led me because there was something in me that was just like, this is not right. This is not right. This does not make sense. And I see this a lot with my clients and truly even just people I know on Facebook. I'm thinking about somebody I know who was just diagnosed with cancer, who's like, I've been a vegetarian my whole life. I
Right.
work out, I meditate, I do all of these great things for my health. And here I am with cancer. What gives? And it's like, as a practitioner now, I look at that and I'm like, I know what gives, girlfriend. Like you followed the mainstream narrative of what health is, which happens to be what diet culture is. You are not following things that actually are about true, holistic, real health. And I don't fault you. We don't have that in our mainstream vocabulary. And you really do have to seek it out if you want truly to have optimal health for as long as possible.
So where does somebody turn if they're like, I am over it. I have been to 50 different doctors. Like, how do you find a holistic person? Is
Yeah.
that functional medicine?
So here's the thing. The titles almost don't mean everything. And on my
Okay.
podcast, Into the Yes, we just recorded an episode about this, about how like credentials are great, but do they actually mean anything? And they're really not going to always lead you to the best place. And so it really is, first of all, like I think there's kind of that gate of like, is it somebody who practices holistically or functionally or in a way that you want to be cared for? And those two terms, just so like we're on the same page, those two terms mean different things and they're kind of like Venn diagram overlap.
Mm-hmm.
And so holistic is the idea that our whole being is interconnected. Your mind, your body, your spirit, your energy, all of that is connected and all of that influences your full well-being and health, right? Physical, mental, emotional health. So that's what holistic means. And functional means that we're looking at how we can optimize your body by looking at systems. So, like your gut is a system comprised of
Mm-hmm.
multiple organs, for example. So, we're looking at systems, we're looking at organs, we're looking at processes in your body and trying to figure out how we can optimize how they all function and work together. And if they don't, how we go about helping you to resolve that.
Mm.
So they're very different. And so I often use the term holistic nutritionist because that seems to attract people better and make more sense to them. But truly, I practice functionally and holistically, which is rather unique.
Yeah. I love that though. That makes you very well rounded.
Yeah,
Um, but I mean, obviously if you were struggling, with your weight early on, there is so much information out there and it's just overwhelming. Like today this is good, tomorrow that is the
Mhm.
worst thing you could have. And there's so much confusion, and I think that's why people are looking for the quick fix, because they don't want to delve in and try and educate themselves on what would be the best bet. It's just like, what can drop the weight off the quickest? I don't even want to deal with any of that.
Totally, because it's a complete paradigm shift. Like, if you truly want to be as healthy as possible, it means you are going to have to release and confront a whole bunch of uncomfortable ideas and thoughts and opinions. And I don't blame people when they don't want to do that, but I also am very upfront about the kind of work that I do and that that's required, that you have to realize that these things matter and that you need to think for yourself and that nobody else is responsible for your health but you. And that a lot of the things you learn in a doctor's office are not about you being healthy. And a lot of things you learn from a women's health magazine are not about you actually being healthy, right? Like,
Mhm.
you have to change your filter, and there's a lot of cognitive dissonance with that.
Well, and it's so individualized too, because what works for Sally might not work for me, So if she's on one path and it seems like, wow, she's really doing well, that doesn't mean that it's going to work for me.
Totally. And I would say there really is a core foundation of steps that I find for 95% of people is the place to start. And that's why I made my course, The Balanced Hormone Blueprint, because I found for years I was doing the same things in the first 5 or 6 visits with clients. And I was like, okay, we all have this base of what we need to learn first and do first, which is the first step is reducing our exposure to toxins. And I'm not talking about like, go live off grid and never drink water from a tap and like
Mhm.
extreme things. I'm talking about things we have control over, like your makeup products and your laundry detergent and the pans you cook with. So that's really the first step. We have to change our kind of how we come in contact with toxic substances because it's a part of modern life. All of us come in contact with toxins and we have to slow the flow, but we also have to help our body to move them out. And so the additional steps are to really eat a nourishing diet, which is not what most of us are doing, and to improve your leaky gut. Because if you have symptoms of almost anything related to hormonal gut stuff, it's pretty much guaranteed you're having some leakage in your gut. And to change your relationship to stress, because so much of stress is actually about our physiological response. And we just aren't really taught how to deal with that. So, those are really like the basis of something we all need almost no matter what kind of health issue you're dealing with. And so that is what's in my course. And then it's like, there is, to your point, yes, we are all individual. And then there are things where we need individual attention, testing. We need somebody to really get into the weeds with us on our health history. But there really is a sound foundation that I find a lot of us can start from to really make a dent in feeling better.
I see what you're saying. So you tap into the getting rid of the toxins, using the most healthful makeup and all that stuff and detergents, and then focusing on your diet. So you're getting to a place where you're at a baseline.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is the thing, this is just a mistake a lot of people make when they're, like, searching social media and they're hearing things about, like, parasite cleanses or detox cleanses
Mhm.
or, bacterial microbiome protocols or leaky gut protocols. The step they're all missing is you have to prepare your body for those things. You can't just throw your body into something extreme. Likewise, with, like, a very extreme dietary approach. In my world, we use those more, like, kind of nutritional modifications that are more extreme in a therapeutic way, meaning they're rarely something you're going to use forever and long term. They're used
Mhm.
for a short period of time with a very specific intention. And it's truly best if you're guided by somebody who knows what the heck they're doing. So, there really is kind of this level of really opening yourself up to the idea that just because you hear about something that sounds like a great idea, that sounds like something you need, that you may not be ready for it.
Right. And I am totally guilty of being one of those people where it's like, okay, I am going to take all of these new supplements. I'm going to change my entire diet. And, I do it all at once. And then I don't
Totally.
know what's working, what's
Yes,
not
yeah.
working.
And frankly, we're all guilty of that. Like, I've
Yeah.
been there, done that. Like, I'm no better than anyone else as far as how those shiny object things sounded really great to me. And it's just now I know better. So I get it.
Right. So what's the definition of hormones? What are hormones?
Yeah. So hormones are chemical messengers, which I know sounds like wildly simple.
Right.
And that's the thing where hormones, we have many, many hormones, well beyond what we tend to think of when we hear the word hormone. Like, what do you think of when you hear the word hormone?
I think of puberty and I think of menopause.
Totally. Yeah. And for sure, hormones are a big part of that. However, neurotransmitters are hormones, right? That are involved in mood. There are hormones involved in your appetite. There are
Mm.
hormones involved in how energy gets into your cells, which is actually really, really important. If your cells don't have energy, they're not going to do all the things you need them to do in the fashion you need them to do it.
Huh.
So there are hormones to help with almost any processes in your body.
If you are not on board with taking things like in menopause, perimenopause, and you don't want to take things that up your estrogen, you don't want to mess with nature, in my opinion, and that's what you're doing.
Mhm.
What is a natural way to deal with the fact that your hormones are out of whack?
I love this question so much because I find that Western medicine and what we see in the media, and even what a lot of other holistic and functional practitioners are sharing related to menopause and perimenopause, is completely taking women astray.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, you need to know that the symptoms you have in menopause, at least at the beginning, or the symptoms you have in perimenopause, unless you make some big changes, they actually have happened and built up to that point because of everything that went on when you were cycling. So, women actually often come into menopause with an estrogen imbalance. And an estrogen imbalance can happen in two ways. You can truly have high estrogen compared to progesterone,
Mm-hmm.
or you can have low progesterone and low estrogen, but the magnitude of your progesterone is higher, or the magnitude of your estrogen is higher than your progesterone. So, relative to progesterone, you have high estrogen because it really is about the estrogen to progesterone balance. And a lot of women, when they get into perimenopause and postmenopause, actually are having symptoms of that estrogen imbalance first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of practitioners, and probably a lot of what you've seen, are take estrogen. And that recommendation is a great way for you to feel like absolute crap and feel completely out of control. So first you need to clear out the backlog. You need to clear out what's leading to that particular kind of ratio imbalance that's giving you relative high estrogen before you go messing with adding a bunch of different hormones.
Sure.
And you also really need to build that healthy foundation that I shared before, that is, and not to overly plug it, but like, it really is amazing. The Balanced Hormone Blueprint, it really is the place to start for things like that, because you have to build the foundation. And then once you've built the foundation with your habits, with your food, with your stress response, then you can start playing with the really fun stuff like herbal supports, for example,
Right.
which can be crazy effective. You don't even have to go to things like true hormone creams. There are truly a lot of other options. And a lot of us just are not aware of them, frankly, because you hear about pellets and you hear about patches and you hear about
Right.
the creams, right? And it's like, there can be a time and place for some of those. I'm not a fan of pellets for one moment, but creams, I use those sometimes with my clients for sure. But first, we've got to actually get you to a point where we can understand what are your symptoms now because of what's going on now, and not what are your symptoms now because of what happened the whole rest of your life.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense because you're at different stages of your life. Your
Totally.
body's going to be different. So what would be the reason for when I have tried to take probiotics before and have been miserable for like 3 days? And I know they say you have to take it for a few days more than that. Sometimes it can be weeks before you really see the effects and feel good. Why would I have such a bad reaction to that? Does that mean my body does not need probiotics?
Dawn, you are asking like my most favorite questions. So
well, that's good.
So probiotics get completely misused. Here's another one where the marketing has been really effective and like the cultural commercials.
Yeah.
And your doctor even has been a victim of the marketing and has probably said to you, you know what, take a probiotic, sure, right?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. We have thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of different kinds of organisms, including bacteria and fungi, candida, um, parasites, all of that that live within and on our body. And when you take an over the counter probiotic, you are subjecting your body to a particular strain or number of strains
Mm-hmm.
over and over and over again. And that can be effective if we know you have a particular kind of deficit in
Okay.
those particular types of bacteria.
That makes sense.
Yep. But you also, guess what? You can create more of an imbalance because even though some of those strains maybe were told were healthy, most types of bacteria, which are going to be probiotics,
Mm-hmm.
those types of bacteria, they have a light side and a dark side. And so it's all about the proportion and the balance. And a lot of probiotics that people are taking when they're taking, in capsule form are what we call transient probiotics, which means they don't stick around in your system and allow your system to really cultivate balance. It's kind of like if we think of your gut like a garden, it's like spraying something topically on the garden.
Okay.
It is much more effective to use something called a spore-based probiotic, which is like planting seeds in the garden that your habits have to nurture and grow into healthy plants.
Okay.
And so I'm a much bigger fan of spore-based, but I will also say not everybody needs those. And even better than taking a probiotic, and this is probably why you've experienced symptoms, is because it might have not been what your body needed, or it confronted other imbalances and right, they were duking it out basically.
Yeah.
And even better than taking that is truly to eat probiotic rich foods. It's something culturally in the Western world we really do not do on a regular basis. And it really is the best way to start getting that, more well rounded, microbiome as long as your body tolerates it.
Yeah. Well, the microbiome was a huge topic. Like, I'm sure for you, it's been a huge topic forever, but for normal lay people, it got brought up like maybe what, 5, 10 years ago. And then everybody was like, it's your second brain and everything's the microbiome. So it got a lot of attention, which I think is great. But then here comes the products, here comes all the stuff.
Totally. And it's like, this is exactly, people are always asking, do you accept insurance? Or, can my doctor say that I need to see you? And it's like, first of all, you wouldn't want me to, because as soon as somebody like me accepts insurance, they're beholden to all of that messaging
Okay.
and implementing things that are said by insurance companies, medical systems, frankly, big pharma, of like what is actually the protocol and the way to proceed forward. And that's a great way for us all to have even worse health.
Right.
And so this is where the whole microbiome thing is incredibly nuanced.
Hmm.
And we want like kind of the quick, easy fix. And there certainly are quick, easy things that can be involved, but it's rarely going to be swallow this capsule.
Right. Yeah. And that's what everybody wants. Nobody wants to have to deal with, because I think we've been let down, like you were
Oh,
let down
yeah.
so many times. And it's like, this is not going to work. I have tried everything. You just get so frustrated.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do you think diet is the main way to get to okay, back up. What is your opinion of dairy?
Oh, okay. I love this question. And actually, Dr. Mark Hyman, I don't know, do you
Hmm.
know who he is?
Yep.
Okay.
Hmm.
He just came out with a video all about how dairy is evil. And what's hilarious about Dr. Hyman, just to give everybody perspective, about 2, 3 months ago, he sent an email saying, oh my God, I did a stool test and changed how I was eating and did a protocol to rebalance my microbiome. And wow, what an amazing thing. I've been doing that the entirety of my career and my business, Dawn. Like that is truly like step one if somebody is experiencing a whole host of health issues and wants to work with me one-on-one. Like, so it's hilarious to me, like even people who are up on this pedestal of being like this is somebody bringing, functional or holistic information to the masses, gets shit wrong and
Right.
also is late to the party. So you just
Yeah.
want to give that context, first of all. Second of all, when it comes to dairy, dairy has been villainized like crazy. And I have been somebody who at times was like, no dairy, right? Dairy is
Yes.
bad. And I continue to learn and educate myself and experiment and see what works in my practice and in the literature and from colleagues and mentors. And I will tell you, dairy is an incredibly healthy food if it's consumed correctly and the source is a good source.
Okay.
And if you're having issues with dairy, then that actually is a sign you need to work on your gut lining,
Okay.
AKA you have some leaky gut things going on, because the enzyme that breaks down dairy is produced by your gut lining. So if you're having an issue with dairy, it means you have a gut lining issue.
Huh.
Yep.
Interesting.
So with dairy, I usually tell people quality matters. So organic, grass-fed, usually goat or sheep sources are grass-fed, by the way.
Right.
We haven't figured out a way to mess that up yet. I'm sure it'll come. But that type of sourcing, and then absolutely whatsoever, no mold. Stop eating the mold. Mold is horrible for us in every shape and form. No blue cheese, no gorgonzola. If it has blue, black stuff on it, it is not meant to be inside or near your body.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't that's what blue cheese, that's
Yeah,
mold?
that's mold.
I
Yeah.
did not know
Oh,
that.
yeah. Yeah. And mold is such a culprit for a lot of health issues because not to go too far down the rabbit hole, about 25% of people have a genetic mutation where they literally cannot detox from mold. So they get incredibly sick. And the rest of us, it's kind of a cumulative effect, I find, where
Right.
over time it can kind of continue to affect us. And we're all being exposed to mold. That mildew in your shower is mold, right?
Yeah, right.
So it's really about changing your toxin exposure and improving how your body moves toxins out. That has to happen. But yeah, for some reason, people eating moldy food is like acceptable. And I cannot. I cannot.
That is so crazy.
I know. So yeah, so don't eat moldy food, especially moldy dairy. That's a great way to make yourself sick and cause a microbiome imbalance.
Right.
And really, go low and slow. If you're somebody who's had an issue with it, there is use to pulling it out for a while and working on healing that gut lining. And that's what I often teach students and clients is we may pull it out for some time. But then I do think it is useful to see how we can integrate and build it back in. And especially things, frankly, like grass-fed or organic butter. I mean,
Mhm.
that's a superfood, y'all. That is a great way to get exposure to some of our fat soluble vitamins that we need for healthy skin and joints and a healthy gut and healthy hormones. We don't have a lot of great sources of that in our diet. Butter or even ghee, which has a lot of the aspects of the dairy that can be a little irritating to some people that don't have healthy gut lining. Those
Mhm.
are fantastic ways for us to get some of these vitamins and frankly, much safer ways to prepare and cook our food than a lot of the oils that are in our kitchen.
Right, yeah. Do you eat meat? Is plant-based a good route?
I mean, you're on the next thing that I always talk about. So, under no circumstances are the vast majority of females meant to be vegan. Under no circumstances.
Whoa,
When
okay.
when you look at the nutrient makeup in animal sources versus plant sources, the animal sources are bioavailable, meaning your body can easily absorb and utilize what it gets from those sources. When you look at plant sources, there are actually mechanisms that plants have that can prevent your absorption. Your body also, in many cases, for the nutrients in certain plants, needs to be able to convert them into another form in order to properly use it. So like beta carotene, which is we're told is vitamin A,
Right.
is not readily available usable vitamin A. You can only get that from animal sources.
Oh,
So it's really, and it's not to villainize plant food. I believe most of us really do benefit from some plants and some animals. We need both. And nature doesn't make that mistake, there's a reason. The plants help to give us certain vitamins that we can't necessarily get as much from animal sources. More antioxidants, more polyphenols, um, certain nutrients like vitamin C, we get in more of an abundance from plant sources. So we need plants, and they also serve as the preferred food for our probiotics, for our microbiome.
Hmm.
So we need that, but we also really need the easy to access, very nutrient dense, meaning lots of nutrients that we can utilize and absorb, lots of bang for your buck of like what you eat volume wise from animal sources as well. So we
Okay.
really do need both. And I see a lot of women malnourish themselves by trying their damnedest to avoid animals. And I see so much virtue signaling in the plant based community about how much better they are and how much more they care about the environment and animals by being plant based. And actually, if you look at the impact of a vegan diet versus one with animals, if you're able to source the animal products from things in your region of even the country, you
Hmm.
actually are likely to have a much less profound impact on the environment than how far vegetables sometimes travel. Like avocados traveling to New York, like come on. Like so the environment argument is weak at best. And I will say, I say this as somebody not only who has a lot of professional experience with this, but also somebody who was a vegetarian for about 6 years. And my vegetarian experience culminated with me finding a breast lump.
Yeah.
So, that for me was the like, aha, wake up. And then I just kept learning more and more and more about it. And I really, really think it's very hard to be healthy and thrive if you do not eat some animal products.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just such confusing. You get on Instagram and follow one page and it turns into another, and you just get bombarded with so much. And it's hard for a layperson to know what's real, what's fake,
Totally.
very frustrating. My question, I did remember. So the toxicity, the products that, laundry detergents and all that stuff, do you feel like it's a good time in our lives right now because there are more options? Things are coming out more and more all the time of healthier makeups and all that stuff. So do you think it's a good time to be dabbling in that kind of thing?
Absolutely. So I will tell you, I started down this road 13 years ago. There were far and few of a lot of things, like talk about being gluten free, talk about wanting to reduce your toxins. I mean, like, wow,
Yeah.
so many fewer options and a lot of like, you're going to have to make it yourself situations.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And now there truly are a lot of options, but I do want to make people aware that there is very rarely an entire product line that is truly toxin free. And
Okay.
so that means you cannot pledge allegiance in many cases to one brand. You need to be informed about the different products. And a really easy place to start if you want to go through your home and start making some lower toxin choices, just go through your home and look for things that have fragrance in them and replace
Okay.
those.
What's a good resource to find good products?
Yeah, so I really like a couple of apps and they're not perfect. You'll hear people who have expertise like mine go on rants about how like even this has problems, even this. And I'm like, yes. And perfection is something no one will ever achieve ever.
Right.
So, how do
Right.
we help people make better choices overall and not get stuck on perfection? That's really my motto when it comes to a lot of this stuff. So
Yeah.
there are two apps that I really like that I think are helpful that people can download to your phone, bring with you to the store, or use to research at home. But I really like the Healthy Living app from Environmental Working Group, and I like the Think Dirty app. And
Oh,
both of those are databases. They're not the most complete, by the way. Like you may not find every little thing in there.
sure.
And that's why I teach people about like what are the things to look for. And fragrances is one that just is an easy one to spot so that
Okay.
you can have that just informed opinion. If you're in the store and the apps don't have a product in it or something, you just look at it and see, oh, it has fragrance, not great. Oh, there's an unfragranced one. Great. Better choice, right?
Okay.
But both of those apps have like beauty products, personal care products, hair care products, cleaning products, some home products, things like that. So I think both of those apps are really great resources to just, again, start to make better choices.
Oh my gosh, so much information. You've really opened my eyes to so many things. It's just been such a confusing time. I think no matter what age you are, there it's just information overload.
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
think that somebody needs to start with your blueprint in their 20s? Is this something that they should approach as they start dealing with problems?
So, sure, but not necessarily. So, the way I've built the Balanced Hormone Blueprint is actually in the first module, you take an assessment to figure out what type of hormone issue you're going to focus on with the course. And
Okay.
I built in where it is useful for women in their cycling years, women focusing on fertility, women focusing on, even in pregnancy, there's a lot you can use, but that's one where I always say, talk to me. Let's make sure we touch base.
Sure.
Perimenopause and postmenopause. So I've built it in such a way where truly it is useful for all of those life stages and phases and for such a variety of health issues, because it truly is like, it is the gold standard of what we all need to be doing before we even get, more advanced and go further down the rabbit hole. So I would say no matter what age you are, really can be a fantastic resource irregardless.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. So tell me how people can tell everyone how they can find you and do this assessment and all that business.
Yeah. So you can head over to bit.ly/balanced hormone blueprint, and it's balanced ED all together in your browser. That's where you can check out the course. And you can also find me. I'm on TikTok. Love it over there. I have a huge following on TikTok and not a huge following on Instagram. It's kind of hilarious.
That
Uh,
is funny.
but I'm at MARISA FAYE Wellness on both TikTok and Instagram. TikTok's a great place to see more videos, get more of a vibe for what I teach and how I can help you. And
Mhm.
Instagram's a great place to send a direct message if you have a general question.
Okay.
And it's Marissa, MARISA, and Faye, FAYE, and then wellness.
Awesome. And then you also are on a podcast.
Yes. Yeah. So I have a podcast called Into the Yes, 3 different words. You can listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And it's me and a dear friend of mine who's a movement specialist. And, we talk about just the things that we're a yes for, basically, when it comes to health and well being. And we try to really demystify a lot of the information out there that's crappy or taken us astray. So we've just done a series all about fitness. We have one about sleep that people are always really interested in. We have one
Mhm.
about weight loss. So, we talk a lot about some of the themes we've talked about today from really that, more clinical kind of professional lens, just to really be examples of just understanding how nuanced some of it is.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I am so glad I found you. You are just a
Oh,
wealth of
me
information.
too.
Seriously. I appreciate your time so much. And thank you for dumbing down some of this stuff for people that just really feel a little lost and maybe led astray.
Yeah, you are so welcome. And I would even say, I don't see it as dumbing down. I see it that we all have a right to learn how to speak the language of our bodies, and we just haven't been taught that.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you being on, and I will definitely be in touch.
Awesome.
All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right. Bye bye.